This is the Everyday AI Show, the everyday podcast where we simplify AI and bring its power to your fingertips. Listen daily for practical advice to boost your career, business, and everyday life.
Could the new Microsoft Copilot Wave 2 be the next mini ChatGPT moment, but for business? I think when we think about generative AI, it's kind of like a line in the sand, right? Like we always talk and think about that ChatGPT moment and how that kind of redefined what's possible. But has that actually made its way into our day-to-day work, or do we still have to seek out these tools like ChatGPT? And I think there's been so much promise with Microsoft Copilot, and now we might be seeing it play out with Microsoft's new announcement just hours ago on Copilot Wave 2. And I think that Microsoft is trying to at least turn your workspace into an AI powerhouse. So we're going to be highlighting, Microsoft said there's been more than 700 updates, 150 new features. So we're not going to be going over all that, but we're going to be going over what's new and real business use cases that are now possible with Microsoft Copilot Wave 2. All right, what's going on, y'all? My name is Jordan Wilson, and this is Everyday AI. Thank you for tuning in on the live stream podcast and the free daily newsletter, where we help everyday people like you and me grow their companies and their careers by not just understanding what's going on in the world of generative AI, but actually using it, actually taking advantage of it, right? So if you are listening on the podcast, please make sure to check out your show notes. There's a link to our website. You need to go there, youreverydayai.com. Every single day, we have the live stream of the podcast, but we also break it down in the newsletter, a lot of complimentary and supplementary information that we maybe just didn't have time to get into the podcast. So make sure you go check that out. All right, before we get into today's episode, which I'm extremely excited about, I got to first, you know what? I'm going to switch it up today. Got to shout out Dr. Harvey Castro, back in the house. Good to see you. Michael and Brian and Tara, Marie, Christopher, Jay, everyone else. Thanks for tuning in. Let me know what questions you have about Copilot Wave 2. Get your hot questions in. Who knows? It's Tuesday. I might come with some hot take answers to your questions. But first, let's get to the AI news. So Slack is now integrating AI bots from other major providers to enhance workplace communication. Slack is making significant strides in its integration of AI technology, aiming to transform how users interact with bots and agents in the workplace. This move is particularly noteworthy as it reflects the growing trend of incorporating AI into everyday business tools, which could reshape communication dynamics for companies. So Slack has announced the addition of AI-powered agents from various companies, including Salesforce, Adobe, Anthropic, Cohere, Perplexity, and Writer, enhancing its functionality. The company is expanding its AI features to include transcripts from informal video chat sessions known on Slack as huddles, which could improve collaboration among teams. This development comes ahead of Salesforce's annual Dreamforce conference, which is unraveling this week. Emphasizing Slack's commitment to generative AI Slack and Salesforce's commitment to generative AI as a mean for agents to operate autonomously rather than just assisting human users. That seems to be the kind of the goal for today, right? Or the common theme. All right, our next piece of AI news. Oracle's Larry Ellison is making headlines as he talked about an AI-driven mass surveillance future. Yeah, a little weird, but maybe good, but kind of weird. All right, so Larry Ellison, the famous co-founder of Oracle, who's 80 years old but looks like he's 40, has stated that the company is poised to become a key player in the development of mass surveillance technology powered by artificial intelligence. So his comments made during a recent Oracle financial analyst meeting raised significant concerns about privacy and accountability in society. So Ellison emphasized that Oracle's infrastructure is uniquely suited for AI applications, claiming that many companies choose Oracle to build their AI models due to its unique networking architecture. So Ellison predicted a future where constant monitoring through AI would ensure accountability for both police officers and citizens, stating every police officer is going to be supervised at all times. He described a scenario where police body cameras would be perpetually recording with no option for officers to disable the feed, thus aiming to prevent abuse of power and enhance public safety. He also proposed the use of drones for police pursuits and AI analysis of satellite imagery to improve agricultural practices, indicating a broad vision for AI applications beyond surveillance. So while Ellison's vision may enhance security, it also raises, obviously, a ton of questions and critical ethical concerns regarding privacy and civil liberties, particularly as Oracle continues to partner with government entities. Yeah, talk about Big Brother. We're not even hinting at it anymore. It's just saying, hey, we all need a bigger Big Brother, and the Big Brother needs to be everywhere. All right, a lot more on those stories and everything on our newsletter, so make sure you go to youreverydayai.com. All right, let's jump straight into it. Let's talk about Microsoft Copilot Wave 2, just announced hours ago by Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, and let's go over what's new and some business use cases. All right, let's party. And hey, whether you're listening on the live stream or the podcast, I want to know, is your company, is your organization, let me know yes or no, even for our live stream audience, is your organization using Microsoft Copilot 365, right? Like that is the enterprise version where it is connected to all of your programs, all of your data, right? I've talked to, companies reach out to us all the time to hire us to help them with their front end strategy or essentially large language model implementation. And it seems weird, right? So talk to companies from as small as 20 to companies literally with tens of thousands of employees, right? And they're like, hey, we essentially want to train 100, or tens of thousands of employees on Microsoft Copilot, and we're working through conversations. But it seems like all across the board, some companies have fully implemented Microsoft 365 Copilot, which is Microsoft's AI offering across their entire organization, whereas some even large companies that have AI teams haven't done so. So I'm curious, it looks like some people are saying yes in our audience. Some people are saying not yet. But here is what you need to know, and we're going to dive into all of the specifics here. All right, so this was just announced yesterday, and kind of the three main areas that Microsoft seems to be focusing on are web, work, and pages. So a lot more on pages, as we go along here. So, but looking more of AI as a collaborative partner in bringing in Copilot into more places where businesses work, and really looking at not just productivity and efficiency, but just driving business outcomes. So again, really the three kind of main areas that I'm going to be talking about on today's show is a little bit more on Copilot pages, which is new, and then just looking at some of these Wave 2 features across the different Microsoft 365 apps, and then the introduction, well, not the introduction, but the unveiling of some new features and functionality inside of Copilot Agents, which I'm personally pretty excited about. All right, here we go. So let's first talk about what's new. Well, according to Microsoft, there have been more than 700 Copilot updates since launch and 150 new features. Yeah, that's a lot. So right now, everything is powered by OpenAI's GPT-4o with enhanced orchestration. A big kind of what's new in Copilot Wave 2. And I do believe that is the name of this, which I don't hate. At first, when I saw the announcement, I'm like, okay, Wave 2. And I'm like, okay, I don't hate it, right? Like we talk about, updates like iOS 18, right? Which was just announced yesterday. I remember back, Windows 95, Windows 98. So, I think this is actually better. So we have kind of a point or a reference in time that we can talk about. Like, oh, this came out during Wave 2 versus just like, oh, Microsoft released this sometime in the last 18 months. All right, so powered by OpenAI's GPT-4o right now. But Microsoft did say that they had future plans to incorporate OpenAI's new O1 model for advanced reasoning capabilities. Y'all, when that happens, things can potentially go bonkers. All right. I still don't think people really understand how powerful OpenAI's O1 model is. And just FYI, stop calling it GPT-O1. That's not what it is, all right? So OpenAI now has essentially two different series. They have the GPT series, so presumably we'll be seeing a GPT 4.5 or a GPT 5, in the coming months, quarters, etc. But then we also have now this the OpenAI O1, right? So right now we have O1 Preview and O1 Mini. So Microsoft did say that they do have plans to integrate and implement this into Copilot. The real question will be when, because right now it's pretty expensive. But so, you might, I don't know, you might see a more premium tier of Microsoft Copilot 365 coming in the future. So that is kind of what's new. And then also another rebranding one, not crazy about this, but maybe it makes sense. So the Copilot Business Chat has been renamed Biz Chat. So that's kind of serving as a central hub for customer data. Also worth noting, Microsoft 365 Copilot pricing. So you do need to have, obviously, Microsoft 365 license, and then the 365 Copilot is an additional monthly charge per user. So at least as of today, it is $30 per user per month for enterprise customers. And let me just say this right now to small, medium, large organizations. Stop looking at that $30 a month price tag as a reason to not implement this across your organization. That is, I'm sorry. Can I be real on Hot Take Tuesday? That's dumb, y'all. Like, go watch the 30-minute presentation. We're gonna have that in our newsletter, and we're obviously gonna be breaking down the highlights today. What, $30 a month, right? Like probably half of your executives are making, 3 to 5 times that, probably more, right? And if you don't think that this can save you 30 minutes a month, then I have no hope for your organization. Period. And I'm not saying that as, I'm not out here shilling Microsoft. I'd say that the same if you're a Google organization, for Google Gemini, for ChatGPT Enterprise, right? If you're not paying these $20 to $30 a month subscriptions, if I'm being honest, you probably shouldn't be leading your team. I don't care. I don't care if you have tens of thousands of employees. And yes, that is a huge line item, but you need to be implementing this now. This is an investment that is going to pay off. But this is not one of those things you should be kicking the can on for months or quarters. That is a bad idea. All right, so that is kind of what's new, and we're going to be going over that a lot more, but let's also quickly look at the evolution a little bit here of Microsoft Copilot, okay? So Copilot was first announced now about 18 months ago. So in March 2023, then in May 2023, we saw Copilot unveiled at Microsoft's Build conference. In November last year, 2023, we kind of saw Copilot released for all, free users as well. So we saw at that point, it was Bing Chat, and then we went through this first level of rebranding, or maybe it's unbranding. So we saw Bing Chat become essentially Copilot, right? So if you're still saying Bing Chat, there is no Bing Chat anymore, right? Obviously, that's Copilot. And now we have another rebranding for when on the business side, there is a work chat, so a biz chat. So there's kind of two different tabs when you are using the Copilot chat. All right, that'll probably make a little bit more sense as we kind of unveil some of the, we have some screenshots and we're going to be going over feature by feature. And then so the last big, and these are kind of the big, I'd say 4 big shifts or announcements over the last 18 months. And then the last one now is Copilot Wave 2. So essentially we had an initial announcement. And then at the Build conference, both last year and this year, a lot of new things were teased and, kind of previewed. But this is September 16th. So September 2024. This is kind of V2, right? So, pretty exciting, right? Especially if your company uses Microsoft Copilot, especially Microsoft 365 Copilot, kind of the premium, that $30 a month offering. This is pretty big. This is essentially V2. Wave 2. All right. let's now go over this. And you know what? I don't hate this. This new concept here of Copilot as the new UI for AI, right? Satya Nadella and this is everywhere plastered on the Microsoft website. But I'm actually thinking, I don't hate it. I don't hate this take. Being the new user interface for artificial intelligence. I've talked about this many times on the show, but Satya Nadella, Microsoft CEO, said it yesterday, essentially saying that large language models are going to become slightly commoditized, right? Because their capabilities, it's nonstop. They're going back and forth. So it's not about, the differentiator for your business is not going to be whether you're using Anthropic Claude or using Google Gemini or using ChatGPT Enterprise or using, Copilot. It's actually going to be how are you using it and is it connected to your data, right? So that's kind of when we talk about this Microsoft's new saying of the new UI for AI. Well, it's their attempt to better integrate web, work, and business data into a single system. That is the downside to a lot of the large language models that we use right now is, you kind of have to build the silos, right? And then once you do build the silos of generative AI with these large language models, they're siloed, right? They don't all talk to each other. Your data doesn't live there. And that's why I've always said, even for companies that are all in on ChatGPT, I tell them this should only be a stopgap, right? This should only be a 3 month to 9 month period of time where companies maybe have to figure out their data strategy before kind of going all in on Microsoft 365 Copilot. I'll say this right now, not super impressed with what Apple unveiled both in June at WWDC and then at their Glow Time event last week in terms of kind of generative AI and large language models for businesses, right? I think it's great for personal, and I don't see myself giving up my iPhone anytime soon. But if I'm being honest, and I've been talking about this for a year, I almost have to switch over to a PC now. I don't see how in the future, and I would say the same thing for small teams, unless there's some part of Mac that your team cannot function without, which I get a lot of creative teams might go that route. But I think Microsoft has almost become a no-brainer when it comes to your business operating system because of this Copilot 365 and this new push. And even if it is just branding on the surface, I love it. And Copilot Pages specifically, kind of trying to be this new canvas for real-time collaboration. So let's talk about that now. A new feature called Copilot Pages. It's interesting that, Satya Nadella kept saying artifact over and over, right? Maybe people have this positive affinity or positive correlation with the word artifact because of Anthropic Claude's feature, Artifact, which is amazing. Essentially renders, code in real time. I think it's one of the most powerful single features of any tool. It was kind of interesting that Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella kept saying the word artifact over and over, right? Maybe it's because we have positive feelings toward that. So Copilot Pages is this, right? I'm going to try to simplify this. So if you've used what used to be called Bing Chat, but then was just kind of quote unquote normal Copilot on the web, and now it's Copilot on the web, but also Biz Chat, right? So there's still some branding challenges there for Microsoft. But once you use it, that data just kind of lives there, right? So not anymore with Copilot Pages. So this is a dynamic, persistent canvas for multiplayer AI collaboration. So if you're listening on the podcast on today's live stream and the video, and you can always go click, check out the show notes and watch this, but it was all in the kind of the keynote yesterday for this Wave 2 announcement. But this is a way to essentially take all this very useful information that you get out of a Copilot chat, right? So it's grounded in the web, right? So Copilot can search the web via Bing, and then you can also ground it in your own data. But then from there, it doesn't just live and die there in your own personal kind of Copilot chat. So with Pages, think of Pages, the simplest way is, okay, it's a Google Doc, right? That's what it is. But where multiple people can collaborate in real time, right? So no longer is it almost this, strenuous process when you're working with Copilot and you have to say, okay, what am I going to bring in? How am I going to share this with my team? What should they or should they not have access to, right? So now it's as simple as it looks like one or two clicks going from Copilot in the same pane. So think about left pane, right pane. In the left pane, you are chatting with Copilot, and then you choose what to send in the right pane, and this is your pages, right? So then everyone on your team can be working async, right? And they can be doing this at the same time, their own kind of Copilot research on the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side, bringing this into a collaborative environment, and then also referencing your other documents inside of that kind of live canvas. So we'll see if this sticks. But this is probably, I think, one of the biggest new collaboration features that Microsoft announced in this Wave 2. Curious live stream audience, what do you think of this? Tara's asking, like Perplexity Pages. Yes, Tara, it is, except it is collaborative. That is the only difference, right? And I do have a list here. Are you still running in circles trying to figure out how to actually grow your business with AI? Maybe your company has been tinkering with large language models for a year or more, but can't really get traction to find ROI on Gen AI. Hey, this is Jordan Wilson, host of this very podcast. Companies like Adobe, Microsoft, and NVIDIA have partnered with us because they trust our expertise in educating the masses around generative AI to get ahead. And some of the most innovative companies in the country hire us to help with their AI strategy and to train hundreds of their employees on how to use Gen AI. So whether you're looking for ChatGPT training for thousands or just need help building your front-end AI strategy, you can partner with us too, just like some of the biggest companies in the world do. Go to youreverydayai.com/partner to get in contact with our team, or you can just click on the partner section of our website. We'll help you stop running in those AI circles and help get your team ahead and build a straight path to ROI on Gen AI. So many of these kind of new features and updates, and I'm going to be talking about them as we go through them point by point. They're just kind of, this is like blank tool from blank. Yes, it is. So similar to Perplexity Pages, when you can kind of chat with Perplexity, push a button and it just kind of converts it into a nicer page, a nicer document. So this is very similar, except this is collaborative. It is async, right? So in Microsoft's example, they had a handful of people going through, and if someone's adding if someone's adding information to a certain part of this page, this Copilot Pages, you can kind of see their cursor, see where they're moving, see where they're working. So a pretty exciting update. And this is, I believe this is already rolled out to Microsoft 365 Copilot customers. So that's pretty good. Also, Microsoft did announce that this will be coming for free to Microsoft Copilot users with the Microsoft Entra accounts in the coming weeks. So it should be available if your organization is on Microsoft 365 Copilot, that enterprise version. Otherwise, keep an eye out. Microsoft did say it should be rolling out for free users as well, which I think is a smart play, right? You always want to give, I think, free users a taste of your most powerful features. All right. Now we're going to go by just one by one and quickly talk about some of the new updates inside of Microsoft's apps. And this is what it's all about. And I think this is why, ultimately, even though I love ChatGPT and I love working with teams, getting them up and running, on ChatGPT Teams, ChatGPT Enterprise, and I think it's great for teams who are quote unquote newer to AI. But if your organization is not quote unquote newer to AI, if you already have had a strong foothold in the Microsoft 365 and you're essentially humming and you have a good data strategy, good DevOps, I'll say you shouldn't waste your time then with ChatGPT Teams or Enterprise. That is a ramp up. I do think the ultimate end goal is to be using something like Microsoft 365 Copilot. And like I said, I don't think there is a competitor right now because I think absolute best case with Apple, right? That's the only other operating system that businesses use. I know there's Linux, but essentially it is you're either Microsoft Windows or you are now Apple, Mac OS. And with Apple Intelligence, we might finally get some of these features by December, maybe February or March, right? But so many of these features have already been in Microsoft Copilot for more than a year, and now they are starting to really interconnect them. And that is where I think with Wave 2, this is huge. That's why it's like, y'all, I don't even know, for me personally, I don't know if I can continue to work on a Mac. It's going to be very hard for me to switch over to a PC, even though I was a Microsoft certified professional when I was like 16. But I've been on Macs for, what's that, 20 plus years. Right? So we need a support group, right, for Mac people switching over to Microsoft Copilot. But let's talk about what's new, the new Copilot features in Excel. And probably the biggest one is native Python inside of Excel. All right. And don't worry if you're not a dork, right? And this is obviously great for data analysts, kind of data scientists, people who are in business intelligence, who have probably already been working with Python, right? So Python is, I'd say, one of the more powerful programming languages, especially in the age of AI. So don't worry. This is low code, no code, all right? So all you really have to do to be able to take advantage of these Python programming capabilities is just talk in real language, okay? And essentially what that means, and this is now generally available as well, okay? All of the Copilot features and functionalities we're going to be talking about here are generally available. So what this means is now you can work with text, data, and visualization inside of Excel. So as an example, you can just say, hey, show me the insights on this data, right? Or build me a chart on this data, no coding required. And Copilot in Excel is going to use Python, and it is going to code those for you. It's going to build them, and then you can iterate on them with natural language, right? Again, your data, real time, large language models, right? This is obviously tapping into GPT 4.0 right now, which up until, a week ago was the world's most powerful large language model. And, like I said, Microsoft did announce plans to be working on bringing OpenAI 01 into the fold as well. So pretty exciting updates inside of Excel. Next, PowerPoint. I would say this new narrative builder, which is generally available as well, is probably the key feature here, right? PowerPoint, Keynote. It was a joke. All right, so narrative builder, generally available now, helps create presentations and drafts iteratively. All right, you can generate outlines with AI, slides, and speaker notes from prompts. You can easily, drag and drop the information, and then working with just simple prompts to get your slides in the right order you want. And I think the big one here is the brand manager, right? So this essentially you can set your company's kind of brand guidelines, some templates, some approved visuals, and then and the approved visuals piece is not out yet. Everything else is. But then you can essentially go in natural language, and even from working in those Copilot pages and say, hey, turn this into a PowerPoint, right? You can copy and paste the information or just do a simple text prompt. And then it's also going to apply all of your brand assets, very easy drag and drop, all, again, in your company's live real-time data. So this is very much like Canva's magic features, right? They're magic AI features, right? Where you can kind of, with generative AI, use kind of these pre-built templates and say, hey, make me a presentation on this. Here's my 5 key points. It's going to build you a 10-page presentation. And then you can go in and do some slight modifications and use AI in there. So yes, this is very much like kind of that feature if you use Canva, but it's already been out for Microsoft, but not this new narrative builder, which I think is going to be a pretty popular feature. All right, the next new Wave 2 update, let's talk about Teams. All right, and organizations, I get that there's certain reasons why you might not want to implement or kind of enable Copilot inside of Microsoft Teams. All right. Maybe it's not for every single meeting, but I am straight up baffled, y'all. The number of large Fortune 500s, I talk to them all the time, both on the show and more times than not off the show, right? Off the air. So many of them do not have Copilot enabled inside of Teams, right? Your meeting platform. If you don't why wouldn't you want a meeting assistant? I get it, right? If there's an HR conversation that maybe is sensitive about salaries, but there's different levels of access. But for the most part, Copilot is an AI that will sit there in your meetings, record everything, right? Give you the transcript, give you the meeting notes, give you the key summaries, the takeaways, actions, bullet points, etc. So not the biggest kind of update here in Wave 2, because I think this was actually one of the better implementations of Copilot in terms of ROI. This is a huge ROI, but the ability for it now can take into account the team chat. Whereas previously, if you sent Copilot into Microsoft Teams, essentially, it only really took into account the human speaking. And if there was, relevant information that would go on during the chat of a meeting, Copilot could not access that. So that is kind of the big new update, the Wave 2 update inside of Teams. All right, here's a big one. In this one, yes, this one is very much like the Apple intelligence, their prioritized summaries. But hey, it doesn't matter, Apple. You can't claim you were first if you're actually a year and a half later, if other big organizations kind of take your ideas and maybe make them a little more useful and beat you to the punch. All right, so here is the piece that I love. And this is, again, why it's like, oh gosh, I got to switch over to Windows. The prioritize my inbox features. All right, so this is not generally available yet. It will be rolling out in public preview later this year. So here's what it does. It analyzes your inbox based on the content and the context of your role, right? So you can essentially tell it and train it and give it feedback, but it's going to know your role. It's going to know who you kind of report to. And then it's going to generate concise summaries of emails with prioritization reasoning. So it's going to highlight important actions. Hey, this is from your boss. So it's, there's a way to essentially sort by priority, which is not necessarily new because you could always manually set those things. But now it does this with generative AI, because maybe, a client or a customer emails you with something that's, pressing, and maybe you haven't marked them as, an important contact. Whereas if you did, you could then prioritize it. So now Copilot and this prioritize my inbox feature both can help you prioritize which emails kind of show up first, but then also the ability to generate brief summaries of long emails, right? So it reduces the risk of missing that critical information. All right, next in Word. All right, so this now, the enhanced ability to reference web data inside of Word, work data, emails, meetings. The meetings piece is coming later this month, Microsoft did say. But essentially, being able inside of Microsoft Word, you don't have to jump into, now Pages or anywhere else, but you can essentially run a prompt with Copilot inside of Word and then reference other files. So in this example that they showed, inside of Word, it said, I need to draft a response to an RFP from Tailwind Traders to install on our charging stations. Reference, and then it references a different PDF. So it says, reference this PDF for specs and pricing, align the response structure to the reference file, and then it references a different Word doc, right? So it essentially says, take all this information from this PDF, but use this other Word document more of a template, right? So obviously that's not going to 100% get it right. But I think that's one of those instances where now inside of Microsoft Word, the ability to both research the web, but then also mention or reference other files, use different files as templates, bring in information from Teams. That's huge, y'all. That's huge. So much of work still gets done, inside of Word docs. We'll see how if Pages really catches on, but so much of work right now happens inside of Microsoft Word or Google Docs. And this new Wave 2 feature, I think, is huge. All right. Next, OneDrive. All right. They kind of buried this one, but there's a couple pieces that I really like. So yes, OneDrive is, essentially, Google Drive, right? If you don't use Microsoft's products, this is their online secure storage. So here's the thing I like in this example. You can highlight multiple documents inside of your OneDrive. Then there is a Copilot tab where you can, as an example, click summarize. So you could summarize 5 documents at once, right? Maybe you're getting ready to head into a meeting and you're like, oh man, these docs are from weeks ago. I forgot what they are. So you can summarize them. You can also compare files. So maybe there's 3 different working versions, right? There's a V1, V2, V3, and you're like, oh gosh, what changed between these? So you can highlight them all, then use Copilot to compare the files. And depending on how the information is formatted inside of those files, in many cases, it will just create a little chart, right? And it will kind of show you what has changed from file to file. So this will be generally available at the end of September 2024. All right, so we started with one of the, I think, key features, which is Pages. And now we're going to end, at least with, I think, one of the more exciting features, which is Copilot Agents. All right, so these are now generally available. So these are, if you've used custom GPTs inside of ChatGPT, that's what we have here. Or, but this isn't new. We've had the Copilot Studio, but a lot of new updates here with Wave 2. So let's talk about them. So now there is a more simplified experience powered by Copilot Studio, just a little bit easier to configure the kind of Copilot agents. So it allows the creation of agents inside of BizChat or SharePoint as well. And you can connect to SharePoint for relevant business process data. It can handle data retrieval, and it can automate repetitive actions. So here's the other thing. Actually, 2 more pieces on the availability. So yes, it is generally available now. However, being able to access them in BizChat will be rolling out in the coming weeks. And then for SharePoint right now, that is looking at early October. But at least in the standard Copilot Studio, you can take advantage of some of these new features that have just come out. So this new visual creator is a newer feature. Here's the thing that separates the new Copilot agents inside of Copilot Studio from, I think, custom custom GPTs from Google Gems, which, if I'm being honest, Google Gems aren't really useful at all, or projects inside of Claude. Well, number one, it works with your most up-to-date data. It's dynamic. Whereas those other instances, you are working with essentially static files. So you could be working with old files, or you have to, if you're building custom GPTs, you have to constantly update the files inside of the knowledge base. Here's the other big difference here with Copilot agents. They can make actions for you. They can take actions. So it now is a 2-way street. So it's not just getting information or having these, kind of Copilot agents do a big majority of your work for you. They can then perform actions, right? It'll say yes or no, right? Like, hey, do you want to submit this? Yes or no? And you still, right? So there's still human in the loop. So you still tell the Copilot agent what you want it to do inside of Copilot Studio. And then, it'll say, hey, do you want me to submit this? Do you want me to pass this through to SharePoint, etc.? And you click yes or no. So pretty big piece there. All right. We've gone over a lot. All right. So that is essentially, in a nutshell, what's new. Now I'm going to very quickly go over some use cases, because this is what it's all about, right? Features mean nothing, right? All the bells and whistles don't mean jack squat unless you can actually put it to use right now. Okay, so I'm going to go over some example business use cases for all of these new features and functionalities for Wave 2 of Microsoft Copilot, because a lot of these things in these example business use cases were not possible, right? Yes, I think, over the last 18 months, we've seen so much promise with Microsoft Copilot. But I think kind of the combination of this Pages functionality inside BizChat, being able to collaborate in real time, being able to bring in Copilot in other places, as an example, Microsoft Word, being able to quickly reference your team's information without leaving, right? Without leaving those apps. That's what it's all about. I do think this is actually not a small change. I'd say this is a seismic step forward for what can be accomplished with generative AI. So let's look at some example use cases here. All right, so in Excel, so a financial analyst can ask Copilot to use Python to create a machine learning model predicting next quarter's sales based on historical data and visualize the results. Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, that used to probably take a very smart person many, many hours, maybe a week or so. Now you can do it with a prompt. Pretty impressive. PowerPoint. A marketing manager can prompt, create a 10-slide presentation based on our Q3 results using Narrative Builder and ensure it follows our brand guidelines with Brand Manager. Yeah, then Copilot will literally take your up-to-date data, assign it your brand preferences, and once that other piece with the approved brand visuals rolls out later this year, and then you essentially have a 10-page PowerPoint that's probably 80% of the way done, right? Again, this might, in the past, this might have been a day or more, 10, 15, 20 hours. Now you can get 80% of the way there in minutes. Copilot in Wave 2, it really does change what it means to be a knowledge worker. All right, Outlook. An executive can say, prioritize my emails mentioning our new product launch and summarize their content. Yeah, or just any ability to talk with Copilot about your emails, the new auto summarization and auto prioritization feature, I think is going to hopefully change for the better how we work with our inboxes. Teams, all right? So after a product strategy meeting, a team lead can ask Copilot, summarize the key decisions and action items from both the spoken discussion and chat. Yeah, I've been in those, whether we're talking about, Zoom meetings, Google Meet, Zoom chat, right? And sometimes, Teams Meet. Sometimes some of the most important information actually comes from the chat, right? Especially when you have large meetings with dozens of people. Some of the most important pieces are in the chat. So now you can use Copilot. It can not only understand all that information, whereas it couldn't before inside of Teams, but then you can also summarize it, right? You can create documents from what happened both in the meeting with all the participants who were talking and in the chat. Microsoft Word, an example here. A researcher can request, add relevant citations from my recent emails and PDF documents to support the key points in this report. Yeah, if you need to source things, if you need to make sure you have citations from other documents within your organization when you're putting something together, that's a great way to do it. And then Copilot can automatically insert those appropriate citations from multiple sources of your company's data. OneDrive, I like this one. Let's say you're the legal lead and you can say something like, compare these 3 contract versions, highlighting changes and summarizing updates. Yeah, that's a big one there. Not just being able to summarize multiple documents at once, but being able to compare them, right? What has changed in these? I'll sometimes spend, 20, 30 minutes having my screen split and being like, what changed in this new contract? What changed in this new agreement? What changed in this new version of a blog post, whatever it may be, right? Now you can do that pretty quickly. And then Copilot Agents. An HR director, you can say, build an agent to screen applications, summarize qualifications, flag top candidates. Yeah, that's huge, right? You're probably going to need a little more specific. I'm giving you a general example of what you can build with a Copilot agent. Again, especially when it is working with your data, right? Hey, especially then reference certain documents. Maybe you have an Excel sheet that has everyone's application in there, or maybe you had an onboarding, an onboarding assignment for new hires, and then you can build, HR could build an agent to, kind of say, hey, where should we be, focusing our training based on, kind of these onboarding scores? Help me build out, a new onboarding training using these other documents, right? Using our big brand guide, whatever it may be. Huge, y'all. This is huge. All right. So let me know right now, should we be doing more on Microsoft Copilot? We've done a handful of episodes before, but I want to know from you all, right? We cover a lot of ChatGPT. We cover a lot of Anthropic Claude. We cover the news. We cover Google Gemini. Should we be doing more Microsoft Copilot? Let me know, whether you're here on the live stream, but also if you're listening on the podcast. So I hope this was helpful, but in short here, Microsoft Wave 2, I think, is much more than an incremental update. I think now we finally have the promise of what we saw 18 months ago when Copilot was first kind of announced and teased, right? I think in some of the earlier, even if we kind of go back and rename it Wave 1, but I think essentially in the first 18 months, there were individual features and individual kind of programs that did great with Copilot. But I think it was still maybe a little disjointed. So I think both this new Pages feature, kind of a live canvas where, you can take kind of what's in your Copilot biz chat and start working on documents right away collaboratively, to start, referencing from other documents collaboratively. And then also bringing in some of these very very needed features inside of these, bringing Python, so natural language coding to Excel, bringing in the ability inside Microsoft Word to easily reference what happened in Teams, your other documents, etc. The Microsoft PowerPoint narrative builder. I think that's big, right? Not just, I can use AI to create a, kind of a general standard looking PowerPoint. No, I can do it according to our brand guidelines using approved visuals already, updating the colors, the logos, etc. This is, I'd say, a transition approach from Microsoft, this Wave 2, to saying, hey, this isn't just some nice thing to have, this Copilot, this generative AI, this large language model where you work. I think this Wave 2 from Microsoft Copilot 365 is saying this is the future of work. AI isn't the sprinkles on top. It is the ice cream sundae. This is grounded in the work. And I think that this Wave 2 is going to be positively received. I know it's Hot Take Tuesday. I don't have a lot of bad things to say. My hot take is this. If you're not already using Microsoft 365 Copilot, why not? Because I think Microsoft just proved that Microsoft Copilot Wave 2 is rewriting the rules of productivity and what can be accomplished with AI. All right, I hope this one was helpful. Thanks a million to you, but also, we're wrapping this up. I put a date on it. We've been dragging this out. So tomorrow, it's Wednesday. So if you're still listening, Wednesday, midnight Central Time in Chicago, you can still enter to win a year, whatever your favorite, baseline subscription, the $20 to $30 subscription, a year on us, on Everyday AI. So make sure, if you haven't already, go to youreverydayai.com, sign up for our Thanks a Million giveaway. It's simple. You put in your information, you're going to get a unique referral link. Then go share that link, text it to someone, email it to someone, post it on social media. If Everyday AI is helpful, we'd appreciate it if you tell someone. And we'd also appreciate it if you join us back tomorrow in Everyday for more Everyday AI. Thanks, y'all.
And that's a wrap for today's edition of Everyday AI. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a rating. It helps keep us going. For a little more AI magic, visit youreverydayai.com and sign up to our daily newsletter so you don't get left behind. Go break some barriers, and we'll see you next time.